One more for the angels. I was standing on the platform of the number 1 train at 23rd Street and 7th Avenue in New York City early one Sunday morning. I guess it must have been around 2 a.m. when a young man sitting on a bench several feet away from me suddenly rose to his feet and then began singing "In Dreams" by Roy Orbison. Now, I don't care much for pop music anymore. I used to when I was in my teens and 20s. However, the older I got, and the more mistakes I made in life, and the more I suffered cruelly for them, the more I craved a certain type of music which could provide me with greater emotional depth. And as we all know, emotional depth is not exactly pop music's forte. So I basically stopped listening to it. I would estimate that I stopped listening to 99% of all popular commercial music. Roy Orbison's "In Dreams," however, belongs to the 1%, which I still sometimes listen to. It's a sad song. I mean, it's really sad, without actually being saccharine. And I really love that whenever I'm able to find it in music. Profound sadness, profound melancholy, without that cloying, saccharine quality to it. Anyway, long story short, this young man who suddenly rose to his feet at the number 1 train, 23rd Street subway platform, and who started singing "In Dreams" by Roy Orbison, sang it well, with great emotion. And the fact that he sang the song a cappella made it even that much more poignant. Until, that is, he was rudely interrupted, about 2/3 of the way through it, by a New York City Transit Authority police officer, who proceeded to inform the young man that public begging and or solicitation in any of the 5 boroughs of which New York City is comprised constituted a Class B misdemeanor, meaning that it was punishable by a substantial fine or even imprisonment in some rare instances. The young man, in turn, proceeded to inform the New York City Transit Authority police officer that public begging and or solicitation had been the furthest thing from his mind. As the police officer could readily see, he explained, there was no open guitar case at his feet for people to toss money into, or, for that matter, anything else which might have indicated his desire for financial remuneration. He was singing, he informed the police officer, merely because he enjoyed doing so. The act of singing, he said, was like the act of breathing to him. And breathing, as far as the young man knew anyway, had not yet been criminalized by any federal, state, or municipal authority. Finally, the young man said to the police officer with a flourish, he had been given to understand by his dear departed Uncle Mo, himself a singer of no small repute in that particular area of the United States known as the Ozarks, that the acoustics in the underground New York City subway system in the wee hours of a weekend morning could rival those of the finest concert hall. Upon hearing the young man's forthright, albeit rather unorthodox, explanation for his spontaneous transition into joyful song, the police officer judiciously considered it, nervously pulling, as he did so, at his official New York City Transit Authority police duty belt, which, by the way, looked awfully cumbersome and awfully heavy, what with the weight and girth of his baton, his handcuffs, his Glock and holster and spare magazines, his pepper spray, his taser, his surgical gloves, his radio, and those cute little leather bullet pouches. At that point, being unable to detain the young man any longer from singing the remainder of the Orbison ballad, the police officer sauntered off, presumably to find some other mark, who didn't consider the act of singing to be tantamount to the act of breathing, and who didn't have a dear departed Uncle Mo. That's one more for the Angels, and one less for the New York City Transit Authority Police Department. Go Angels!